I know for a lot of people, street photography, it's really scary. But I think the more you do it, the more, you kind of push yourself to just, take the photo that you want, then I think you'll start seeing a lot of good results.
Hello. Another episode of Photography Radio is here. My name is Tomasz, and today I have a very interesting conversation for you to enjoy. I will be talking to James Lucian, American photographer currently living in Seoul, South Korea. Some of you might know that my wife is Korean. I have visited Seoul several times already, and when I discovered James' work, I immediately knew I had to talk to him about his fascinations and experiences from the streets of Seoul. I hope you will enjoy my conversation with James Lucian.
Can you imagine your life without photography? No? Then you will love this show. And it doesn't matter if you're a DSLR, a mirrorless, or a mobile phone shooter. We're here to help your photography grow. This is Photography Radio.
James, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for joining me on this interview. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk.
Excellent. You are based in South Korea, Seoul, right?
That's right. I've been living here in Seoul for about 3 years now.
3 years, yeah. So I was browsing through your Instagram feed. My wife is Korean, so I just knew immediately I had to talk to you, right? And also great images on your feed. So I felt immediately connected. So let's do it, right? How long have you been photographing? Like when was it the very first time you discovered that photography is your passion?
Yeah, it's been a really long time that I've been taking photos. I was, I guess, introduced to a camera when I was in high school. I had to take an art class, and I decided to just do photography, film photography, like in the darkroom and stuff like that. And when it came time to go to college, and I had to figure out what I wanted to major in, what I wanted to study, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I decided to just major in photography because I enjoyed it so much. I loved it, and I guess the rest was history. I've been shooting ever since. So it's been about, 10 years now.
Yeah, wow, nice. So did you go like through different, phases, different genres? I mean, now you are shooting, as I understand, mainly street travel, right?
Right, yeah.
Did you do other things before?
Yeah, I think I tried to do everything. It really took me a while to figure out what exactly I enjoyed. Like different editing styles and techniques. For a long time, I tried to do landscapes, like in nature, just take pictures of beautiful sunsets. But I think once I came to Seoul, the streets here are just so incredible, and they're so different from back home that I kind of found my way into the street photography scene, and I've really enjoyed it a lot. So I would say now it's mainly street, but I think over the past decade, I've tried every single kind of photography there is.
And now you're based in Seoul, South Korea, and on your Instagram profile, you wrote that you are an American trying to figure out Seoul, right?
Right.
So did you figure it out by now?
Well, I always tell people, like, I think I figured out Seoul. I think that I've seen it all. There's nothing more to be seen. But then I'll walk down a new neighborhood, and it's completely different from anywhere else I've been in Seoul. So I'm like, there's still so much more I need to explore here. So some days I think that I have figured it out. Sometimes I feel like this is, there's nothing new here, nothing to surprise me. But the city always has a little something special. So
it's a huge city, right?
It is very, very big. Yeah. I think the biggest change from back home is how big the city is.
Where do you come from originally?
Yeah, I am from St. Louis, Missouri, so right in the middle of the U.S.
So what is it that fascinates you the most, when you're walking streets of Seoul? Like, is it the people, their behavior, or is it just the surroundings, the scenery? What is it that, kicks in? Like, what drives this passion when you grab your camera and walk around? How would you define this one, main trigger?
That's a good question. I think when I first moved to Seoul 3 years ago, I was so just like stimulated by the streets. Like, oh, there's all the signs and the Korean writing, the Hangul is up on the buildings, and so everything has been so different for me. So even after all these years, I'm still just like constantly like I'm just amazed by the streets, and so like the people and I don't know, everything seems so different here, but at the same time, it's very similar. Like I'll find these little similarities from back home, like the way the people go about their day. So even though that it's a very like different place for me, there's still like that little something that's the same. And I've always been fascinated by that about Seoul. Just I don't know, I get really excited.
It's interesting because I travel quite a lot myself, and I often think about it because we have the place we call home, right? And then we visit another location, or maybe like you, we live for a couple of years somewhere else. And of course, when I'm visiting an exotic, or let's say foreign location, sure, my eye goes on fire. I see new things, so immediately there is so much inspiration for my photography. So like everything feels new, everything feels different. Do you think it's like in terms of good photography, how important do you think is reacting to a new location? Does it in turn improve your own photography, or is it simply this excitement itself that it's the main part of this process? Like, you know what I mean? Could you be able to produce the work you are doing, and could you be getting equally excited back home on the streets of your own town? What do you think?
That's a good question. I think, well, actually, I just went back home to St. Louis this past March. And I mean, I lived in St. Louis for my whole life until I moved to Korea. And when I would walk around the streets of St. Louis, I was like, this is so similar. It's so familiar to what I've seen my entire life. So nothing seemed really that exciting. And I think that's why moving to Korea, it was so neat for me, because I could see things I'd never seen before. But by the same token, when I did go back to St. Louis, I would try to see things in a different way, because when you're out photographing, it's different than when you're just walking around like normal. I try to really get into the zone and like see things and like try to find the interesting content, the interesting subject matter there.
Do you think a Korean photographer, somebody into photography who has been living in Seoul for 70 years, do you think when he would land and start walking the streets of St. Louis, wouldn't it be the same mechanism that he would be, entirely excited about how different everything is?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would assume so. I think that, when you thrown into a place where it's so different from what you're used to, it's exciting. I think it is. Well, actually, recently, like a couple of weeks ago, on my way to work, I started to bring my camera with me every single day, because I walked down these streets, hundreds of times over the past couple of years, and everything became just really boring, because it's what I saw every day. I would see the same people, I'd see the same shops, the same, everything. But when I brought my camera along with me, it was a good exercise to try to force myself to see these streets in the most interesting way that I could with my camera. So like, even though these places were so familiar to me, like they still seemed a little bit different with my camera. So I think it'd be the same with anybody would kind of get used to a place you've been around a long time. But even like you said, if there's somebody living here in Seoul for 70 years and they move to St. Louis, I think it'd be a culture shock to them, because
right.
Everyone in America, they would drive in their cars. Nobody uses the subway, and it's just a kind of a different way of living. Like people are here, they would walk everywhere, whereas in St. Louis, they drive everywhere. So especially for street photography, it's a way different kind of feeling.
And the amount of people is crazy, just crazy, right?
Yeah.
So you have so many opportunities, right?
Oh, it's fantastic. I love it so much. There's so many people. I'm never bored. Any time of the day that I go out, there's always somebody interesting out there. This is just like a huge playground for me where I can go out and play and take photos, and I love it. It's great.
Are you more into photographing people, or like kind of broader, kind of bigger scenes, surroundings, or do you like also going tight, on particular person in your shots, like getting close?
Well, that's a good question. I really love people. I think that like what makes a scene is the people, because otherwise it's just kind of an empty street, and I don't know if there's anything really interesting about that. I mean, you can make it interesting, of course, if there's good lighting or whatnot, but if you have an interesting person in the frame, I think that just elevates the photo so much.
Let's get back to those differences. I think it's interesting, and also I have a few questions from our listeners. So let's pick up a few questions. They all relate. Most of them relate kind of to what we just talked,
okay.
But maybe from a different angle. I have two questions from Terry and from Colin. Let's play them and let's try to tackle those two.
Okay, great.
So here's the one from Terry.
Hi, James. This is Terry Price in Tennessee in the States. I really enjoy your work. I do travel photography and street photography in other countries. And my question is, what's the difference in terms of shooting on the streets in the U.S. versus shooting on the streets in Seoul? Is there one key thing or several things? I know when I travel, it's just a different vibe from country to country. Again, great work, and thanks for answering my question.
Let's play one more from Colin.
Hi, James. I was wondering, what do you find is the biggest difference between shooting street in Korea compared to shooting street in America or any other Western countries, if there is one?
So you see, people really interested about those differences. Korea, maybe Asian world. You also travel a lot in the region, right? And the Western world. So how would you grasp those main differences? What when shooting on the streets?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, at least from what I've seen, is that there's always people around here, and I think this is kind of the way of living. Is that people here, at least in Seoul. Like I went to Hong Kong, I went to Tokyo a couple years ago. People get around by the subway, and a lot of people don't really drive cars, whereas in the U.S. it's built around cars. So, just people going about their day-to-day activity is, I think, more prevalent here, whereas you probably wouldn't see that as much in the U.S. And I think you kind of, at least from what I've seen in the U.S., is you see more people like they're out of their cars for 5 minutes and they're on their way to work. So it's very kind of brief. Whereas here, people are more,
mobile.
They're more mobile. They're more willing to just chill out outside for a bit. And so I think that's been the biggest difference, at least. And also just the way that the city here is built. It's built for walking, whereas like in St. Louis or other cities in the U.S., people are just driving their cars, so it's not like if you want to go to a convenience store in the U.S.,
you would drive over, right?
Yeah. Whereas here you have to go down and you walk there, and it's convenient. It's really nice. I love that so much.
And what in terms of, because you mentioned you like photographing people, also like getting maybe closer to them or including them in your photos.
Right.
I think this is interesting. What about the reactions, to a guy with a camera? Because this is always so differs from country to country, I think. So how are Koreans reacting when they are seeing you out there, pointing the camera at them?
Yeah, this has kind of been a hot topic on my Instagram, I think,
right,
lately, because Koreans are very, what's the word? They're very private. They don't like to have their photos taken, and so it's a bit that's very different from what I'm used to in the U.S., where I don't think people in the U.S. are really, they're not there to be models all the time on the street, but they probably don't care as much. Whereas here, if they see me with my camera, they might put their hand in front of their face, or they might, kind of walk away. I've never had anybody come up and yell at me or anything like that. And I think, to be honest, since I am white, living in a country where everyone's Korean, of course, people probably think that I'm just a tourist and I'm, just taking in the sights and stuff like that.
Exactly. I was about to ask you, did this thing that they might be thinking you're a tourist, do you think it helps?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think it helps a lot because if I were Korean, they see me taking photos, they'd probably curse me out in Korean, but they say, oh, he's just a white guy, he's just traveling here, no harm there.
Do you speak Korean? I can assume you do.
Yeah, I'm certainly not fluent by any means, but I can get by a bit.
Well, but then you can, so your undercover can vanish immediately when when you would talk back to them in Korean, they would realize probably you're almost like a local.
아니요, 한국어 yeah, no, no, I don't speak Korean. Yeah, I don't know. But like I said, like on my Instagram, I've been surprised at how positive people have been in response to more like photos I've been posting lately, where you can clearly see the people's faces. There's always somebody who will get angry about that, and I totally understand it. But after shooting street photography for, really almost 2 years here, I've had so many photos that I just really disliked because it would just be the back of somebody's head, or I felt like the image was really good, but I would never post it because of their faces. Mm-hmm. So I've been trying to push it a little bit and see what the reaction was, and I've been pleasantly surprised that a lot of people are pretty. They're fond of the work, actually, that I can show Korea in a positive light. Because, of course, I'm not going to be posting any images that are, unfavorable. I think, all the images are pretty harmless at the end of the day. And I think a lot of the Koreans have, at least I hope they recognize that.
Do you have many Koreans actually following your account?
Yeah, I try to check the analytics, and from what I can tell, maybe about 40% of my followers are actually living in Korea.
Oh, nice.
So, I don't know if that's other foreigners that are mainly following me, but from what I can tell, there are a good amount of Koreans following me.
Recently, I think it was probably maybe a few weeks ago, you posted a photo of this lovely kind of, it was an older gentleman, Korean guy, and you wrote his English was not bad at all, and so you had an interaction, right, with your subject, actually.
Oh, right. Yeah, I remember.
Right. So does it happen a lot that you actually interact with your subjects, or because of their shyness or privacy kind of concerns, they rather tend to walk away?
Oh yeah, well, I guess I should say that I've been trying to be a bit more bold and go up to people and be like, hey, can I take your photo? The photo that you're referencing, that guy, he actually came up to me. Which actually, that happens fairly often. People will see me and they come up and will talk to me, usually trying to sell something or get me to join their church or something like that. But yeah, I try to have some kind of interaction with the person, so I'm not just sneakily taking the photo. I think in most cases, people clearly understand that I'm taking a photo. And, I'll make a motion to them with my camera and can I take your photo? And then if, I can kind of gauge their reaction. If they're like, oh, no, then of course I put the camera away. But most people are just kind of like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. Go for it. So with those people, I'll take the photo. And, a few times I'll just show them the photo and they're like, oh, it's great. But yeah, by that same token, I've had plenty of people go like, oh, no. And so you just have to respect that as well.
Those who, are happy, for you taking the images, do you kind of, you try staying connected, telling them about where the photo will end up, on your Instagram account or on your website? Are you trying to kind of, share the photo after the fact, after you have worked on it later with them? Does it happen as well?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like again, like more recently, I've been trying to be a little bit more bold and stuff like that. So a lot of the images I take are like older ajishis, like older grandparents. So so I will try to kind of show them like, oh, Instagram, yogi. And they're like, oh, okay. I don't know what Instagram is, but okay, good. Uh, so
I
and
think
then
you have to go on Katok, right? Probably.
yeah, I'll text them on Kakao and send my favorite emojis. Yeah.
Wonderful, James. I have one more question here from Giselle Smith. She's
Sure.
asking. She saw on your website that you teach children, right? You're an English teacher, is it correct?
I am. That pays the bills, so that's what I do.
Excellent. Do you teach or give them, those children you're teaching, an opportunity to photograph something? Do you like include photography into your teaching in some way or not?
I really wish that I could, but with like the curriculum, I don't think that would be allowed. But I did. There's a friend of mine here who's also a teacher, and he does photography, and he gave all of his students a little disposable camera, and he
Mm-hmm.
told them, take the disposable camera, go out, take all your photos, or take as many photos as you want with it, and then bring it back. And then so you take those cameras, and then he got the film developed and the pictures printed, and he gave it back to the kids. And then with those images, he had the kids, write about it, write about the experience. I was like, wow, that's really amazing. I really need to do something like that. So no, I'm unfortunate I can't do that with my kids, but I really, really wish that I could, because I think that's a really amazing project for the kids. So I'll need to talk to my boss. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, great, James. Listen, let's go into the other set of questions, kind of more general ones. I mean, you mentioned you have been photographing now in Seoul for 2 years, right? Is it correct?
Yeah, I've been living here 3 years, and then I bought a camera, so about 2 years now.
By the way, what camera are you shooting these days?
Right now, I have a Sony A7 III. I love it so much. I used to have a Canon 5D Mark II, which again was a great camera, but the Canon was so big and heavy that it wasn't really good for street work. But the Sony, it's really small, it's really light with the mirrorless, and I love it. It's really good. The autofocus is really quick, and with Sony, there's like the eye detection, so even if I am trying to take a quick shot, it's really quick at picking up the focus right on the person's eye, and so I get really lucky that everything's in focus. And I don't. It's really easy as well, so I really love it for street stuff.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. So exactly. So you have been shooting now, for 2 years, right? Like you say, you have different days. Sometimes you have the feeling, you have seen it all, and there are other days where you visit different neighborhoods, get inspired again, and so on. So as I understand, like all of us, you have those moments, or maybe even longer phases of like kind of a creative block, right? So
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
motivation, inspiration goes a little bit down, and so on. When you are aware that something like this is happening, like when there is this creative seeing is kind of in a low zone, what are the things, how do you beat this kind of condition? Like, how do you give yourself this kick again? What's the trick here?
Yeah, I mean it's tough because it happens more often than I wish it would.
You are not alone. Don't worry.
Yeah. Definitely, I know that. But for me, it's just kind of, I keep taking photos. To be honest, recently, like in the past month, I've felt like, what am I doing with photography? Like, why am I doing this? It's no longer fun. So, like, the only remedy for that was to take my camera out and go shoot some more. And, something, just, if I stop shooting, then I'm not going to, figure out what the problem is. I'm not going to get like that one good image from the day where I'm like, yes, that was it. For me, I just have to kind of keep going. I've been trying to build my collection of photography books, like magazines. And so I try to look at all those books again, and there's usually something in there where it's like, oh, wow, like the way he was able to frame up that shot, like maybe I can try to do something like that. It's different. So I try to really look at other people's work as well and see, like, figure out what I really enjoy from their work, and then, just try to go recreate that, even if I'm trying to steal like the idea or the concept. At least it's fun for me to try to like emulate those people.
We all get inspired, and we digest so many different visual influences from all directions, and that's nothing wrong. It's Some people call it like stealing, but it's not stealing. We are just seeing things and then digesting them and kind of post-processing in our own way, right? And then
right, of course.
What's the new but you meant interesting things. You just mentioned 1 minute ago that you had this moment where you ask yourself, why am I doing it? Why all this photography? Did you come up with an answer? Why are you doing it? What's the main motivation for you of getting those pictures, going out there, then sharing them with the world? Would you be able to like define it?
Well, that's a really tough question, because I don't know. It's I love photography. I don't know what it is inside me, but I always get just really excited when I'm sure you feel it too. Like every so often you get like an image and you're like, that's really good. And inside of me, that like it's such like an endorphin rush. I love it. And like I finally did it. But as so like why am I doing it? I don't know. It's just the drive I have.
The drive, yeah, sure. I know it very well. I know very well what you're talking about. Is sharing your images with the viewer. Also like an endorphin kicker. Is it important, very important for you that you have this reaction, of the viewer? Or is it the process itself, when they are standing there on the streets? Is this moment more satisfying for you?
I mean, yes and no. I think, I get a lot of joy just looking at the photos I've taken and seeing something that's good. So I appreciate that. But also just the interactions that I have with people, like mainly on Instagram, or even something like this, it's really fun. I get to talk to other people about photography, something that I love. And so when I can share an image that I'm really proud of and other people are like, oh yes, that's good too. It's like, it does feel good. I can't lie that I get really excited when other people like what I'm doing. I think it's very, what's the word? It's very rewarding that,
sure.
Other people.
So in the end, it's the total, the entire package, right? That makes it all worthwhile. And makes you grab this camera again and go out again, right?
Yeah, and also I think a lot of my followers on Instagram, they've never been to Korea before. Mm-hmm. So, I get messages all the time like, oh, I wish I could go to Korea. Like, it's so nice to like see it through your images. And I get really excited about those people as well, because I feel like I'm sharing Korea and Seoul with other people. And as much as I love photography, I also love Seoul as well and Korea. So it's nice to be able to share this with other people as well in that regard.
Yeah, that's. I think you are doing a wonderful job, and
thank you.
I think the Korean, Board of Tourism should be in touch with you. I don't know, maybe they already were, but.
Well, if you can get them to contact me, that'd be great. I would love
I'll do my best. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, listen. You have a daily job, right? I don't know about family. We didn't mention. Do you have family? You have wife, right?
Yeah, I just have my wife, no kids.
You have your wife. So you are most probably struggling with another two things which most of us struggle with. The first one is time for your photography. How do you, I can imagine you are getting very busy, depending on the school, schedule and so on. How do you have those moments where you struggle with finding time? And if so, did you come up with any kind of idea of or a system for yourself? Some people are scheduling their photography blocks in their calendars. I know such, really. How do you tackle this problem of the lack of time?
Yeah, no, that's the biggest thing. Like, to be, between you and I wish that I could quit my job and I'd just focus on photography full time. But it's not realistic right now, at least. I still have to make money somehow. I have to, continue, paying the bills. So it can be really frustrating because also the job is, I'm a kindergarten teacher and I teach elementary students as well. I teach them English. So it can be really demanding just of my energy because they're so high energy. And so I have to match that. I have to teach them, and there's a lot that goes into planning the classes and everything like that. So it does take away from like my mental focus on photography. I need to focus on the job as well. But I know that once I leave the school at the end of the day, like that time is mine. And so usually what I do is on the weekends, I'll go out and shoot as much as I can on Saturday and Sunday. And then usually on the weekdays after work from about, 6 to 7-ish, I'll try to edit any of the photos I took the past weekend. I'm very, very lucky. My wife is very supportive, so she understands that.
That's great.
I want to go out and I want to take photos. She's like, yep, that's okay. She's busy too as well. So,
is she into photography to some extent or not at all?
Yeah, not as much as me. I think she likes to go take photos, but I wish she would, but no, I don't think she takes hers. I think she enjoys seeing it through my eyes and living vicariously through me. But
does she have a good eye, you think?
Yeah, of course she does.
Is she a good critic? It's the same here. My wife kind of really enjoys photography, but she doesn't shoot really herself.
Yeah.
But sometimes she will go up and tell me, "Hey, Tomasz, just erase it right now."
That's exactly it. The thing that I really appreciate with our marriage is that, on Instagram, people are always like, "Oh, that's great, that's so good, that's great." But my wife, she will be like, "No, I don't really like that much." And then I look at it, I'm like, "Well, I thought, it would," and then, of course she's right.
I think it's great to have somebody like this, right?
It's fantastic. I really love it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it means excellent. So it's mainly weekends for you when you shoot, right?
Yeah, right.
But you mentioned also you try to have the camera with you at all times. So if there is something happening when you commute, going back and between to work and so on, you are kind of ready. The camera is in your bag, right?
Yeah. I try to bring my camera to work. I'll bring just like a small lens, and so it's not too heavy. And yeah, so I've been trying to bring it more often, and it's been really nice as well.
And those weekends, let's say, because it must be happening also. I know it very well. There might be a weekend, a Saturday, where you were kind of probably planning, to go out, but you simply don't feel like, or maybe you're tired, or maybe maybe it's raining outside, which I, by the way, think it should never be an excuse, right? Because you can get some amazing photos. But if you don't feel like going out, and it has been, maybe 2 weekends in a row, would you then push yourself kind of to, no, James, just stand up, go out, or would you rather wait for this moment where you really feel like going out again?
Well, if I'm being completely honest, I don't know if that's ever really happened. I always kind of go out.
Feel like going.
Yeah, but no, there are a few days like that, and so on days like that, I'll probably just walk around my neighborhood. The beautiful thing about Seoul is that every street's really interesting. So even though like where I live may not be where all the tourists are flocking to, or like the most beautiful images are being taken here, it's still really interesting, the streets around here. So yeah, I'll just go out and shoot for 30 minutes or so, and then at least I have something for the day. Or like I'll go up to my rooftop on my apartment, and there's beautiful cityscapes and see the mountains and everything. So I think there's always something to photograph. So I at least try to just go out. Or honestly, like if I'm really tired, I really don't want to, then why force myself? I think photography is a lot of fun. I really enjoy the process a lot, but if I'm not feeling it, then I don't think there's anything bad about it.
James, your number one golden tip, that those of us who are into street photography, one golden tip, can be technical or non-technical one, that you think would improve our street photography, like, right away?
The one tip I would give, and it took me forever to, like learn it, is just don't be afraid. Just take as many photos as you can. Don't be afraid of being bold. And I know that is definitely way easier said than done, but the moment that I stopped kind of caring about what other people would think is when I think that my photos kind of went to the next level. So if I see something that I really like, I just do it. Just take the photo, be bold, go take it. If somebody gets upset with you, like, that's not the end of the world. You're gonna be fine. And I think by that same token, like, it takes practice to be that bold sometimes. Because I know for a lot of people, street photography, it's really scary. But I think the more you do it, the more you kind of push yourself to just take the photo that you want. Then I think you'll start seeing a lot of good results. And I think, at least for me, the more like bold I've gotten, the more positive interactions I've had. I think there's a lot of people would be more surprised that there's a ton of people that are really kind of excited to see what you're doing. It kind of breaks up their monotony, and somebody's taking a photo of me. That's kind of cool. That's I'm just some average Joe. Like, you would have never had those interactions if you just weren't at least a little bit more bold to go do it. So yeah, I would say just go for it. Yeah, just do it.
James, listen, great. I think let's do the lightning round.
All right, I'm ready.
Your favorite Korean dish?
Well, I'm actually vegan, so my wife's Korean kimchi fried rice.
Aperture priority, shutter priority, or full manual?
Aperture priority if it is sunny outside, but full manual if the sun is going down.
3 elements that make up for a good photograph.
God, this was the hardest one. But I came up with the lighting, composition, and a good balance in the image.
New clothes or a new lens?
New lens, 100%. I don't care about clothes. Give me the lens.
Photographer I should interview next?
This was the hardest one because there's so many people, but I
have to choose one. Okay.
The guy who I really love the most on Instagram, and I look at his feed all the time, is Craig Whitehead. I think he goes by 6 Street Under. If you interviewed him, I would be super excited about that one. I think he's awesome.
James, thanks so much. It was wonderful. We are at 40 minutes mark here. Enjoy, stick to what you're doing. I really love the images, and
thank you.
And many people do. And I hope to meet you, next time in Seoul. When visiting, right? Would be amazing.
Yeah, please do. Anytime you're here, or anybody. I love meeting everybody. So if you're in Seoul, please let me know.
Thanks so much. And just share quickly with our listeners. So your Instagram account is?
Oh yeah, my Instagram account is @James Lucian. Lucian is spelled Lucian.
Excellent. And you also have a website, right?
Yeah, it's jameslucianphoto.com.
Thanks so much. Have a great day, everyone. Let your photography friends know about Photography Radio, and if you haven't done so yet, subscribe to the podcast. Head over to photographyradio.com to find out how to do it. My name is Tomasz, and I will talk to you next